promise from her husband, the Earl of Somerset, to look after Ava like she too was an Ellington. When the grand lady took her last shallow breath, Ava had shattered. She'd been a despondent mop of a girl when Vincent had rushed back from London with his lists of what Ava would need to repay the Somerset estate before she could consider leaving. "You were schooled, fed, clothed, and housed like a lady, not a servant," he'd argued. "A miscalculation of my stepmother's generous heart. You must repay the estate. You will remain a servant of Somerset until your debts are paid off." Lord Somerset didn't openly agree nor disagree with his son on the matter, but forbid his son to have carnal relations with Ava or his half-sister Grace. Apparently his protection did not span to the poor maids of the house, who became mouse-like during Vincent's few short visits to Somerset. The old man continued to provide for Ava, as his dead wife had requested. Ava had pushed the worry of her debts aside, until Vincent had arrived several weeks ago to watch his father slowly succumb to his own illness. Grace smiled sadly at Ava. "We both miss Mother. She would never have let Vincent chase us so. Which is why I had to act." Ava glanced out the open window at the shrinking image of the man she deftly eluded by convincing Lord Somerset to marry Grace to the son of a business associate in Scotland, somewhere far, far away from Vincent. "How can you ever forgive me?" Ava asked for the 100th time, turning back to her friend. Grace blinked, her lips pursed in a weak imitation of anger. "As I've said, there is nothing to forgive. You had to think quickly. Marrying me off to someone far away, and me begging for you to come as my maid, was the only way we could leave. Mother has no other relatives who would provide a sanctuary, and Vincent made it perfectly clear that he considers us his property, me to marry off to the highest bidder, and you to force himself upon." She shivered, pushing back into the button-embellished seat cushions. Somerset Estate was huge and manicured, but even in its richness it felt sad and poor of spirit. Cursed by the Ellingtons, no doubt. Ava glanced out at the trees lining the deer park they rode through. The leaves had begun to turn red and orange. "I will figure something out." Ava smoothed the parchment folded in her lap. She'd saved herself from Vincent's attacks. He had shown an incestuous interest in Grace, but probably due to Ava's servant position he'd made it blatantly obvious that Ava was the one he desired most. The more she resisted, the more he tormented her. Had she acted just to save herself? "I will get you out of this marriage," she said to Grace, tapping the hastily copied contract that had procured their momentary liberty. "We have 2 weeks of travel to reach Aros Castle on the Isle of Mull. That is plenty of time for me to devise a way to keep our freedom from Vincent, as well as Tor Maclean." Grace offered her a confident grin. "By then, clever Ava will deduce another way to save us." She tipped her head coquettishly, her chin jutting upward. "If need be, I can climb mountains, sleep in caves, even run with wolves." Ava felt a genuine smile crack through her mask of serenity. "I will keep your abilities in mind." The coach pitched and creaked as they turned onto the north road towards Scotland. Ava took a full cleansing breath to clear her worry. 2 weeks. Surely by then she could figure out how to save Grace from marrying Tor Maclean, without them being returned to Somerset, as the contract indicated. Tor Maclean was the son of the Macleans of Mull, someone with whom Lord Somerset had done business this past summer, before his illness. The clan chief was searching for a way to tie his family to England, to prevent King Henry's troops from harassing his people, now that England had declared war on Scotland. Vincent had forced a kiss on Ava when she'd seen the missive from the Highland chief in Lord Somerset's post, asking for possibilities beyond business ventures. She'd quickly responded in Lord Somerset's name that a marriage contract might be a perfect solution. Ava was just a servant without family or fortune. She couldn't offer herself up for marriage. No, it had to be Grace, in order to convince the Maclean chief to offer them sanctuary. Grace closed her eyes. At least the Isle of Mull is hundreds of miles away from Vincent. With his father's serious illness, Vincent was expected to remain at Somerset to take over the estate when his father died. By then, Ava had to have Grace and herself safely tucked away somewhere in Scotland. Otherwise, he would call Ava back once he took Somerset's reins, insisting she repay the generosity Marjorie Ellington had bestowed upon her. At the thought, chill bumps scattered up her body.